Good existence, my fellow cosmopolitans, and welcome back to the community-supported apothecary. My name is Nicholas Jensen Denton, and I am your host. Community-supported apothecary, Spagyria, in other words, plant-based spirituality. Now, this is episode 4, I believe, and we've got Gotu Kola, formerly known as Centella Asiatica, I believe is how you pronounce that there word. And I'll give you a brief synopsis before we start, because I'm always in the mood or in the trying to encrypt things further into more simplistic understandings. Basically what we have here is an herb that strengthens the antenna, which is your body, to become a receiver for universal consciousness. And by this I mean the immaterial force permeating through space and the biological system that is the human body, which, as far as we know, knows no bounds. Not the body, the force. So, Gotu Kola, I'm just kind of giving a new lens on the use of herbalism towards the development and the expansion of consciousness. And if there was ever an herb that I thought could catalyze that in a very natural way. I mean, natural to say, like, it's not a psychedelic, it's not any psychoactive, it's not going to alter your cognition or anything. It will just bring your systems up and online through prolonged use. So, what does it do? In the current era, in the current era, a precise metaphysical science has been particularly elusive in the education and the cultural dogma. In other words, the truth of the individual, of the reality of both combined, the ultimate reality, is not a culturally implicit understanding. We don't all have a consensus on what the meaning of life is. I, for one, believe there is absolutely an objective meaning to life that can be captured with language and acted upon by all beings, no matter their color, creed, religion, maybe their religion, no matter their nationality, or their nation state or location on earth. So it's important to me to bring this message of metaphysical herbalism. We can call it, no, we're going to call it plant-based spirituality, but just understand what is really being done here with the Gotu Kola, because these are the big questions of life. And that is the starting point of most spiritual systems. What is our origin? So, really all spiritual systems, no matter where they start, are an attempt to translate to conscious kind the very essence of our existence in order to return. This is like a functioning spiritual system. The spiritual system returns a response to the individual that allows for a heightened state of awareness, typically one that contains more answers to our trials and tribulations, more answers and really guidance in our experience in life. A proper spiritual system will provide alternative usable tools and perspectives that can be used in turn to effect the social development, personable, familial, relationship-wise, cultural speaking, every endeavor that the human being can be involved with. It is set to be a third-party additive to what the human being is creating. So that way there is some sort of blueprint for creation that we could follow and not wander around blindly in the dark. So if you cannot benefit your physical life, your emotional life, or increase or develop a better sense of contentedness or compassion or even problem solving, if your creativity is dwindling, or you're just finding that your character lacks substance, you don't have any unique skills or any other attributes, then I hope I'm not the first one to break it to you, but your spiritual system is probably a system of domination and control and oppressive. It is oppressing the specialized aspects of your humanity. And I urge you to reassess them because, frankly, I think the world is in desperate need of a fresh perspective. What I call, or what we call, the modern triad is it has just become just like what you don't. It has lost all of its substance and can only be regained through very esoteric and specialized teachings, which nobody's really interested in. And this general apathetic attitude towards spirituality in the Western materialist culture, I believe, is a major issue, which is what brings us back around to plant-based spirituality. I'm just making a case for myself here, all right? So, yeah, it's my personal assessment. It was my personal reassessment of this various world spiritual religions that led me to the use of sacred plants and sacred herbs to advance my spirituality, aka expand and develop consciousness. So, like I said, this is the same reason for the holistic improvement of the individual, for creating tools to serve the human experience, that I've turned towards plants to help me unlock my talents, capacities, and endowments, and what I would like to offer you to do the same. So to cultivate these innate capabilities is to develop sovereignty over your own consciousness. And this simply means to no longer be it means to no longer require any type of psychological, emotional, spiritual input into your psyche in order for you to maintain happiness. That is sovereignty over your consciousness. In order for you to maintain contentedness, you don't need any external stimulus from the physical reality or other people or anything in order to bring balance to your body and your spirit and your soul, and to cultivate these, what we're calling these unique talents. So mankind, in my opinion, in my research, has absolutely been designed to be a free and sovereign entity. You can make the case certainly that we're here to, or that the human being is designed to just take orders, but that is not the case. I'm not going to go into why, because that's a very long topic. We're here to talk about Gotu Kola, but you're probably aware of this if you're listening to this podcast. However, mankind truly was designed to be a free and sovereign entity in control of his his own actions, in control of his own thoughts, making his own choices, and fully exercising his free will. Our free will, his and her. So this state of evolution, what I call the totally sovereign consciousness, is the precursor to a totally free and independent human species. And this species of sovereign beings is not just capable of self-government, but they are perpetually self-governing. And because they're self-governing, they're free to act in accordance with their true will without any illegitimate artificial inhibitions. So once you get sovereign over your own consciousness and you have ultimate control about what you experience internally, then we are all at the first step. That's when we all get on the same page, basically. They say, raise the vibration, raise the collective understanding, make it overstanding, right? That's when you're able to control yourself, and you're able to control your reality to a greater extent, and you're able to have a high degree of self-government, which is freedom. It's true freedom. So, in the search for heightened states of awareness, there are many techniques and paths. There are as many paths as there are perspectives and people, we could say. So the reason I've decided to use herbalism is because being a healthy being and sustaining a fully functioning nervous system is all that is really truly needed to become more conscious. You could consider health and the metabolic system the forefront to practical spirituality. What you consume, you become, energetically speaking. You consume dead things, you become more dead. You consume live things, and you become more alive. So plant-based spirituality is an attempt to refine the energetics of the entity in question. As we consume these herbs and these plants, they're not food necessarily, but they moderate the metabolic systems and the functioning of the nervous system, which, like I've been saying, is the precursor to basically developing your spirituality. It might not be the precursor, but it's something that is integrally related to it. As the old Hermetic axiom goes, as within, so without. So Gotu Kola is an absolutely astounding herb. They've been using it in traditional Chinese medicine for thousands of years, and they've called it the destroyer of weakness in Ayurveda, which is traditional Chinese medicine. It's very, very often used as a nervous function and memory enhancer. It carries a powerfully cleansing effect that has been shown to decalcify the pineal gland. Within the brain, it operates predominantly on the glandular system. The pituitary and pineal gland are the master glands of the rest of the endocrine system. In essence, the endocrine system is the neural network of the entire body, carrying hormones that help control mood, growth, and development, the way our organs work, metabolism, and reproduction. They are the internal clock that synchronizes us with the natural clock, what I call the cosmic clock. Endocrinological balance is of the utmost importance in Spagyria. The result of the balance itself is the strengthening of your ethereal electrical connection to the universal consciousness, like I've been saying, and it allows for a wider bandwidth of conscious activity. You're able to retain more in your head on a conscious level. I think that just means to understand more, to know more, to implicitly and intuitively be at one with the environment. When you're at one with the environment, that is a state of gnosis. That is when you are in full knowledge of what's really happening inside of you and outside of you, which is inside of you, and your inside is what is outside, if we're to listen to the Hermeticists, which works symbolically, which is something I'll get into in the next plant-based episode, but I digress. The fundamental materialist scientific fallacy is that the universe is constructed of particles, and all animation and inherent meaning is the result of molecular and particle-based physics. Advances in science and cognition, developmental psychology, or the development of consciousness, have shown us without a shadow of a doubt that particle-based science is a far outdated perspective, or reductionist materialism, the idea that the particles that we can measure with devices are the only things truly that are in the universe. We've been shown, and we've learned through science, that this is a absolute fallacy. It is an outdated perspective on the true nature of reality. It is not how reality works. Realistically, I believe I said this earlier, consciousness exists as an immaterial force within the universe that permeates all matter, exactly like cosmic rays through space, or like space through space. And that has implications, great implications, I believe, for our understanding of physiological systems and the herbal effects on them. This perspective also opens the door, I believe, for consciousness exploration to become a part of data science, but that is also another topic, but I felt like it was important to say. So, what kind of implications does this have on us? The endocrine system, specifically the pineal gland, it is the gland in the geometric center of your brain, has been expressed by classical Renaissance thinkers. René Descartes and his crew specifically considered the pineal to be the seat of the soul. And similarly, mystics since time immemorial have held this gland in the highest regard. The ancient Egyptians depicted their sun god Ra symbolically as the physical outline of the pineal. There are photos of this in the actual blog. If you want to look and go on the website and click on the tab on the far right, Plant-Based Spirituality, and scroll down, you'll see the Gotu Kola with a little picture of René Descartes pointing, well, a drawing of somebody in his journal pointing, describing the exact thing I'm telling you about right now, the seat of the soul. So, it's not only within the Egyptian culture, it's not only within the secret societies of the 1700s. It is also within the Judaic tradition. Etymologically, Jacob, Jesus' grandfather, we presume, wrestles with the force of divinity atop Mount Pineal, in which his perseverance grants him blessings, after which he meets God face to face. And I guess at some point we should define God in this podcast, but it is a lot more than what they say it is in the Bible. So what I'm saying here is an encrypted piece of information that is in reference to awakening the internal flow of what the alchemist would consider prana or chi within the body, to ultimately illumine thine eye in the brain. Another verse from the Bible, let thine eye be single. I think we're getting to that actually, so let me skip ahead. But yeah, Jacob has a divine wrestling match on top of Mount Pineal. He probably had a dirty pineal. He wasn't taking Gotu Kola. It was a wrestle up there. The New Age, it carries the moniker the third eye. So, yeah, we believe it comes from the Bible, from the book of Matthew. I believe it's the first place it says, the lamp of the body is the eye. So then, if your eye is clear, the whole body will be full of light. We can translate these cryptic metaphors to say that the pineal gland is the body's connection to a wide bandwidth of frequencies capable of transmitting a universal force of conscious information to consciousness through the universe, or to the biological system in question. However, one of the implications that this understanding of consciousness has to do is that it is not dependent on a biological system. Actually, biological systems are dependent on the existence of consciousness as a force, as a manifold of information systems. So, the pineal gland is the connection to this force that is flowing throughout the universe, as they say, the great flow. And the effects of the Gotu Kola, they detoxify and they clean the third eye. So modern science and neuroendocrinologists really don't talk about the third eye at all. And it's because they operate under this understanding that consciousness is generated somehow by the brain, which we're explaining here that is not true. That's actually the hard problem in science. It's got two names. It's called the binding problem. And the binding problem is what most neurologists will work on. Not most of them will work on, but many neurologists work on to try to determine how the conscious awareness is generated from the physics, like the particles, which we said don't exist, of the brain. So the thing is that they're never going to figure it out because that's not how it works. What they're showing us in the latest research is that consciousness is spread throughout the entire body. And what they're not making the connection to is physics, where conscious awareness is affecting physical matter without touching it. So there is a non-biological component to the sustainment of consciousness. So the mind's eye, the third eye, the soul seat, will effectively, when it is cleansed, eliminate the static and the noise and increase the clarity of the operator's multidimensional awareness. Simply put, the receptivity and connectivity between the body, the spirit, and the soul. Don't worry, in another episode we'll define those two, the spirit and the soul, because there is confusion, mass, hysteria, and confusion. So to try and encrypt this all again, break it all down like I tried to do before, we can further more simply understand the force of consciousness in the same way that a television set receives a signal from the airways through its antenna that populates its various channels. So too does the body attract consciousness from the universe that allows an entity to animate and become aware of the different channels, which are synchronous with mentation, inspiration, intuition, streams of thought, visions, internal cognation. That's it. It's just everything is happening internally in the felt immediate presence of the moment, as Terence McKenna likes to say. These are also these different channels. They also can represent realities, entire alternate realities, or simply the non-physical matter reality. So when perfectly tuned and balanced, and you gotta get the angle right on your antenna on your TV and smack it a few times to get the TV clear, the endocrine system will activate a higher rate of data exchange between the information systems of the universal consciousness and the corporeal system of reality. So between the finer, lighter aspects of the multi-layered reality, the data can be exchanged between the ethereal aspect of existence and to the fleshy, what appears as particles, or really it appears as cars and buses and roads and houses and trees and things, because who's ever actually seen a particle with their eyes? So, all this means, yet again, we go in circles because it drives the point home. It makes it easier to understand, to say the same thing 10 different times, because I know that these words they might be not sufficient enough in logic for some of you. So, by all means, hear me out. This data exchange between the universal consciousnesses and the corporeal system of reality means that you are capable of creating a more dynamic state of interaction between the infinite reality of consciousness and the third density, which is the particle-based 3D. Gotu Kola maintains the balance and the harmony of the presence of this moment through the metaxic and glandular calibration. That's it. It maintains harmony in the physiological system by maintaining the glandular endocrine system. So when balance is achieved through this system, you know what? Something we forgot to talk about on here. It's not just the pineal and the pituitary, it's the whole system. Is basically, it's what they would call chakras in the Eastern tradition. It is the centralization of very, very critical systems within the body that they just require the whole being, the whole human body. Like they say, consciousness is spread throughout the whole thing. So what on the body is really more important than the other? What is the natural order within the human system? You can cut off your foot and you can still be fine. There are people out there without brains, and they've been fine their whole lives. So it's really hard to say. However, most of the discomfort and the dis-ease that happens, at least in the Western culture, is absolutely due to it is due to well, I guess that's a pretty broad sweeping statement. I'm not going to say that, but the most delicate system in our body that can have great effects on our mood and our way of life is certainly our brain and our neural networks. And we've basically got three brains: the brain in the head, the heart brain in the heart, and the gut brain in the stomach. There's about a third of the neurons of your entire body in your stomach. And branching out of this is the glandular system, not of the stomach, but of the whole thing. They call the endocrine system the brain of the body because it is transferring hormones and all sorts of critical components to cell functioning on a very regular basis. And so when we get a slight hormonal balance, it is absolutely noticed almost immediately. And what this means is that the vibration, the energetics that are required to go into sustaining the endocrine system are integrally linked to the consciousness of the operator. So it's a more finely tuned system, basically, is what I'm saying. And these finely tuned systems can have a great influence over how the spirit, consciousness synonymous with the spirit, is connecting with the body. So any disruptions there will cause great discomfort. So yeah, I just wanted to talk real briefly on basically what I'm describing as consciousness, and what science will come to describe as consciousness is what the mystical traditions and the quote-unquote mystery schools have been referring to as the spirit for quite some time. And frankly, plant-based spirituality comes directly out of operative plant alchemy. It's the same thing with just with a modern update on the linguistics, so I thought I'd make sure I brought in the old dogma for a little refreshing. However, let's go on. When balance is achieved, let's sum this up. When balance is achieved, pure life force is experienced. And we have achieved what the ancients called Ein Sof, which means limitless wisdom. You've got the knowledge, you've got the answers, you've got the power. Shekinah El, what the Kabbalah, which is the mystical interpretation on the Old Testament. The Kabbalah, Shekinah El, is the dwelling place of God within the mind, right? And then the operator of the mind can move up and down with a Merkabah, in which it goes into the Shekinah, which is really a chakra above the head, and communicate with divine intelligence to gain any sort of insight on anything. What kind of question would you ask God? Come back down into the body and express that wisdom. That's Ein Sof. The ancient Christians, not the ancient, they weren't that ancient, they're only 2,000 years old. The Gnostic Christians would, we can just call this like iterating enlightenment. Enlightenment is a forever, never-ending thing. There's always something more to learn. There's always something to understand. There's always something to do. And moving on to the next thing, continuing along the path, is iterating your cycles of enlightenment. So, to access limitless wisdom, it is access to limitless wisdom. It is all the answers, but you gotta ask the questions. And it is the ability to peruse universal databases. In a word, the panacea. When we achieve the panacea, which will be definitely around the time we achieve, it will be after we achieve individual sovereignty over our consciousness, but they're really one and the same thing, but it is a process. When you achieve the panacea, we will open up a whole new era of scientific inquiry, creation, and self-development. They say good things come in threes. There have been two great awakenings in recent history. I think this is the third. Everybody keeps saying this is the greatest time to be alive. I wonder why. The floodgates are open on all of the information that has been hidden from us for so long, and that we have been killed for investigating and propagating. It wasn't until, the late 1800s, 2% of the world could read. It was the 1500s when people started to read. It was probably less than 1%. It was the late 1500s when people were first allowed to access the Bible again. This created an explosion of new religions, and shortly after, into the 17th and 18th centuries, we experienced vast improvements in technological innovation. And into the 20th century, we are approaching that, what do they call the law of accelerating returns? It is just popping off over here in the first world. So blessed are we to be in such a place to see such what I consider very noble truths coming to light, because it really is an exciting time to be alive. That's all we can say. So this is the ultimate purpose of plant-based spirituality, but it's also the aims of using Gotu Kola to increase our connection to the Supreme Self, the core of what we truly are. Like always, take the herbal medicine with intent. This is specifically an herb used for meditation, and it will make your meditations better. I guarantee it. It'll make your inner vision better. Meditation is the act of seeing insight. The pineal gland has rods and cones in it, just like the eyeball does, but it is not receiving UV light from the rainbow. It is receiving, it's generating its own light. You ever wonder why when you go to sleep and you dream, you can dream that you're in the daylight? I have all the time. I mean, frankly, the dreams are insanely multidimensional and incredibly hard to keep up with, but I know that we all dream. And we all can close our eyes and imagine something. And that is the aspect of existence that has been deliberately befuddled. We've been befuddled. We've been, they say the gods went down and confused man. But we have absolutely and continuously are befuddled with tomfoolery and science fiction and Hollywood movies and media. They're talking all this talk about the information war. What is it? Where is it? This is the information war. The information war is trying to make sure that you don't realize the truth that all the information is contained within you, and you don't have to go to anybody for the truth. You can find it in the depths of a meditation with an open heart and an open mind. With that all said, please enjoy your existence. Bring some light into the world. My fellow cosmopolites, that was Gotu Kola. You can find it in the store. You can find me on the internet. Reach out with any questions. Make sure it's safe. I promise you, we're going places from here.